When did how did your musical acting career begin? Your musical education?
I guess I started playing the piano when I was 7. And I basically started like many other kids. My father liked music, was an amateur singer, and we had a piano in the house, and I just started taking lessons. So, like many other kids. And I guess the difference was I liked it very much, and I kept going.
Was that in Canada? When did you?
That was actually in Lvov.
In Lvov, Poland.
Well, Poland, but when I was born there, the Ukraine. It's one of those unusual cities where my father, my mother, and I were all born in Lvov. My father was born in Austria, my mother in Poland, and I in the Soviet Union. So everything changed around us.
It made the vacations very inexpensive too.
So in a way, yes, you could do the grand tour without moving. Yeah, it was wonderful. And I guess I'm Polish basically because when my father was born, he was born in the Polish part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The language that we spoke at home was Polish. And then when I was 7.5 or so, we moved to Warsaw. And I lived there until I was about 10.5. And then we went to Canada. Then my parents and I went to Canada.
I feel like artists of your occupation, your range of travel, become really international citizens after a while. I don't know if you feel particularly Polish, particularly Canadian, particularly American.
No, I feel kind of like a New Yorker, I have to say, just because I've spent, I've been here from the age of 12, and I love being here. My wife and I have never considered living anywhere else really. It's a wonderful place, but I think beyond that, yes, I'm in a profession where I'm very, very lucky. I'm able to travel, see a lot of the world, meet people from everywhere, and become sort of instant friends. That's the other wonderful thing about music. You can make friends without talking too much about anything. It's very exciting.
You won the first Arthur Rubinstein competition at the age of 25. And again, because of the modesty of your outward persona, what was the competition experience like? Some people thrive on it. Doesn't seem like something you would thrive on, and yet you did, at least in that one. And
yeah.
Some others too.
Well, I think competitions are really there not in order for anyone to win or anyone to lose, but really to give people a chance to be heard. That's really the point of a competition. There are occasions when a contestant will not be chosen by a jury to go to another stage or to make the finals, whatever, but audiences hear them and like them so much that the same thing is accomplished as winning first prize. I mean, Ivo Pogorelic, when he was in the Chopin competition, didn't make the finals, but was so popular with some of the jury members and the audience that he started playing concerts and made recordings, and so it didn't matter whether he won the competition or not. The purpose of a competition is really to get a chance to perform. So I think the more that we young pianists, I'm not that anymore, but at the time, that we are able to look at a competition from that point of view and just think about the idea of you want to play your best and you're not really worried about beating anybody else. I think you survive the experience better than you would if you're a competitive type, because the competitive idea doesn't really go together with music. I mean, it's how do you compete for a better version of the Emperor Concerto? There is no better version. There are versions that are wonderful and many of them. So.
Well, but it helped to shape your career. You got the
absolutely.
Prize, you got the YCA.
Absolutely. I think for people who don't have the possibility of meeting conductors, of meeting managers, of this kind of thing. One of the routes that's open to them is competitions, and it's a fantastic thing. If you get concerts out of it, that's wonderful. The big drawback is that it can make people feel very bad about themselves, you know, and I think that's the downside of competitions. The upside is you practice a lot. That's very good. You know, you train because you want to play as well, as correctly, as brilliantly as possible. And you make friends. You know, I met people at this competition that I'm friends with to this day. So it's okay.
Tell us about your piano teachers.
Well, I really had just one for a long time, a man named Mieczysław Munz, who was from a kind of long line. Well, he was a student of a wonderful Italian pianist named Egon Petri. Egon Petri was a student of Busoni. Busoni met Liszt, Liszt met Beethoven, and so forth and so forth. And somewhere back there is Moses, probably, playing the piano. But he was really a pianist who was from the same era as Joseph Hoffman and Rachmaninoff, and a wonderful pianist. He started having hand trouble in the 40s, which is basically why he stopped playing. Had a number of students at Juilliard. He wasn't for everybody. It worked very well for me.
What was it about him that worked for you that didn't work for other people?
I think he sometimes could be not the nicest person. He could be very tough. And he was only interested in certain aspects of music. He was interested in beautiful and technically good piano playing. He wasn't so interested in other music. So if you didn't have curiosity about other music, you probably should not have been studying with him, because he wasn't one of these people that would say, oh, you should go to the opera to hear this, or you should go and hear the Mahler Fifth Symphony at wherever. And that you had to do on your own. But he was wonderful for discipline, and he was wonderful for knowing how the piano is played. He was really a great exponent of that.
And who were the pianists who you listened to or went to hear that you gained things from? Who maybe didn't teach you directly, but who you heard?
I heard almost everybody that passed through New York in those days, in the late 60s and early 70s. And that's one of the great things about, for young people and especially piano students, to live in a city like New York, because really you hear everybody. I was bowled over by so many great pianists. I heard Horowitz any number of times. I heard Rubinstein innumerable times. I heard Richter and Gilels within 3 weeks of each other. And I kept saying, if I don't give up the piano this week, I guess I'm safe. They were so amazing. And of course, one of the things that happens is you hear these people play, people like Sirkin, people like all the people I've mentioned, and the next morning you get up and you try to sound like the person you heard last night. And eventually all of that percolates, you know, because in a way, people say imitation is not a good thing, but you can't help but imitate. It's part of the learning process. And on the other hand, you can't really imitate because it's not you. So it's kind of both. You know, much as I would like to play just like Horowitz, I can't. And not only because I can't do it physically, but I'm not him.
I was going to say, it's been done. Yeah.
It's just, you would have to be that person in order to express yourself that way. So I don't think there's really a danger in imitation in that sense. So I heard many, many people. I heard the young Ashkenazi, which was so dazzling. He was, you know, he was the first